All right. I've gone ahead and started the recording for this morning, so it'll be available for anyone who couldn't make it. Just as a reminder, if you're asking questions, we love that, but please don't use any identifying information for your student as we do want to respect their privacy. So we'll go ahead and jump in. My name is Kelly Falcone. I'm one of the counselors at Cal High.
And I'm Katie Lapata. I am another counselor at Cal High, student support counselor.
Excellent. So, oh, no, Chrome, we're not relaunching right now. Okay. So first things first, with the elephant in the room is that finals week is just around the corner. So yeah, students, the ones I've been talking to, they're like, oh, feeling a bit of stress, which is normal for this time of the season. There's a lot of things going on. So Tuesday, our students will start with their B period final. So other than that, it'll be an odd day. They'll go to periods 1 through 5, and then students that don't have a B period will get to leave. Students that do have that B period will take their final that day. The rest of the week, there's 2 classes per day. So it will be an early release Wednesday with first and fourth, Tuesday, second, or Thursday, second and fifth, and then Friday, they'll end with third and sixth before they get to start their winter break. All right. So this material went out to all students, right? We were advertising some student support sessions, which we'll get to in a little bit. But we wanted all students to have access to a planning guide because one big thing about managing that academic stress is kind of spacing things out and being able to feel confident that they have time to do the different things they need to. So this is like the first page of it where they would be writing down their different classes and teachers, what grade they have, and then most importantly, what information would need to be covered on the final. So for some classes, it will be a cumulative final, meaning it's covering everything through the semester, whereas other classes, it might be just kind of a normal chapter test or perhaps a project, an essay, different things. So this is to kind of help them get their bearings a little bit and really dig into like, what do I need to do for each class to end out the semester? There's also a page I didn't include on here that has them then prioritize their classes, right? They look at their grades, they look at what they have left, and then they decide, okay, this needs to be the top of my studying, and then something needs to be the last. So helping them kind of take a moment to pause and reflect and really be intentional about how they're spending their time these last few weeks. Um, then the other page in the document is this planning sheet for them to kind of plot out what they're doing each different day, um, to help them see the big picture. So we've had times with students to sit down and do this. Others will do it on their own. Others may have a totally different method of planning, which is absolutely fine, but we just wanted to provide a document to help them. All right, so that's some things that they've already been given. We want to focus now on like what you can do as parents, right? Obviously, you're here because you care about your students' academic stress and how they manage that. So just some different things. So I'll talk about sleep before I pass it over to Miss Lapata or Katie. We're all adults here. So sleep, I feel like hopefully preaching to the choir here, but we know how important sleep is for people. But a lot of students, they feel I almost feel like it's some badge of honor to be like, oh, I stayed up so late studying, or I only got this many hours of sleep, when in reality, that's actually detrimental, not only to like the philosophical idea of them being a well-being and being a well-rested person, but really even the goal of studying, right? Because their brains need that time to rest and synthesize the information. Otherwise, they will forget much of the stuff that they spent all that time studying for. So really aiming for that 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, and that's something you can do as parents to help enforce that, and hopefully having that plan in place will allow that to happen more easily because they won't be coming up on a deadline quite as much. So really requiring that devices be put away at a certain point so they can get that sleep to help their brains and the big picture. So screen time is a big part of that. We know some students, many adults need some support in putting those things away to be able to relax at the end of the night. So that might look like encouraging your student and your family to come up with some sort of wind down routine of, hey, this is when we're off of technology. Here's the things we do as a family, whether it's maybe going for like you went for an after dinner walk, or hey, we're all gonna read, or we're gonna do a craft or something to kind of ease into a peaceful night versus studying right up until bed, staring at that blue light on the computer, and then trying to go to sleep, because that would be really challenging, I think, for many people. Anything to add, Katie, to that one?
No, I think just as Kelly said, anything that we can do to kind of help encourage them to use those healthy limits with the screens, maybe even encouraging them to figure out what a winding down plan kind of looks like for them. So maybe that means doing, a quick meditation before bed. Maybe that means journaling. Maybe that means, doing taking a bath, things like that. But anything that they can do to kind of create a routine that helps them to, lower stress and get ready for sleep can be helpful.
Awesome.
And then moving on to resources. So, parents can encourage their students to utilize the resources that we have on campus. So, just making you aware of that. We do have our Wellness Center, which is a wonderful place if your student hasn't visited already. It's just a place where they can come to take a quick reset break. We have mindfulness activities and tools. We have staff that can help them practice doing some breathing exercises. It's just a really calming space that a lot of students utilize, especially during these more stressful times. So make sure that they get a chance to check that out. We also have, obviously, our wonderful counseling office. And all of us are here to provide support during all times of the year, but in particular during these finals week times that they have questions or need help kind of grounding before going into tests, things like that. So encouraging them to find us on campus and find out what, information we can share with them. We'll also be offering some workshops during student support next week. So we will have a couple different workshops. We'll have a test anxiety workshop. So if your student is someone who maybe tends to feel that anxiety maybe inhibits, their performance on tests, or they want some tools to kind of manage that, then they can come to join that. And then we also have kind of a preparing for finals study strategies workshop that Ms. Falcone is offering, which is a great tool as well to use. And then just maybe thinking about forming study groups with each other. Sometimes that can be, a helpful way to kind of collaborate on studying, partnering with other students to maybe quiz each other, things like that can be really helpful. And
Yeah.
then talking about organization, we know that organization is an important thing to kind of do all year, but in particular with preparing for finals, it can be really helpful to help students kind of feel like everything is, in order. They know where to look for their notes. They can use the document that Ms. Falcone showed about using a schedule and things like that. And Kelly, did you want to add any other information about organization or thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's just really interesting because even with some of the students that I've already talked to, and again, the ones that are saying like, oh, I'm kind of stressed about finals, some of the ideas that they've come up with are definitely, right, we're talking about this plan and here's what I'm going to do what day. I've had students suggest like, I think I'm going to share this plan with my parent, right? That way they can be my accountability buddy. So, not necessarily wanting to have it be a thing where the parent feels like the student's not doing enough, or the student's like, oh, my parent's having to nag me about this, but kind of working together as a team to say, here's my plan. What do you think? How can we work together for you to help me ensure that I'm on track here, but still maintaining that balance? So, really getting some family support in trying to stay with things, but also potentially having talks right now about, hey, which things are negotiable and which are non-negotiable. So one metaphor I've used with students is if they're juggling all these things, right? They have all these balls in the air. They need to figure out which balls are glass and which balls are rubber, right? So which balls, if they drop it, it'll bounce. They can deal with it later versus which are these really fragile, delicate ones that need more of their attention. I also say sometimes, which are rocks, which are just things that, why am I juggling this? Let me put this down and not have to worry about it versus keeping it in the air. So maybe some things in your family that might depend. So I've had some students say, yeah, my job, I need to talk to them about not working as many hours right now, or maybe I can talk to my parents about waiting until winter break to catch up on some chores that I'm really needing to do. And it might be different in your family, those might be glass balls in your house. But having those conversations when students are feeling overwhelmed and how do we get back on track? So doing that. The other big thing too that I don't know if we talk about enough is really having a physical space set up for students to be able to study conducively. So free of distractions, that kind of sets their brain and their intention for, hey, I'm in this space right now. This is where I study and I focus. I have lots of students that tell me they like to study in bed, and I think there's research out there that kind of shows that sometimes can get wires crossed about your brain and body not knowing, am I supposed to be sleeping and resting in this place or am I supposed to be focused and learning? So really working with your student to make sure they have a physical space to be able to study most effectively. We had talked about the study groups before, and we are hosting I think it's called Coco and Cram, which is not personally my favorite name for it, right? We don't want to encourage cramming because you learn best when you chunk things over time and give your brain and time to synthesize the information and really remember it, versus like stuffing it all in and hoping it sticks. So not my favorite name, but I do like the idea of students getting together in the library here at Cal High, working on what they need to. There are tutors available if needed. So if physical space is something you're exploring, highly recommend that. I also know some students do like going to the library, which I feel like is a really helpful way to kind of set your brain to, okay, I'm at the library, I'm here for 3 hours. What's my plan? What am I getting done? And then you get to go back home and put on your relaxation hat again. So kind of keeping those a bit more separate. So yeah. I can talk a bit about the mattering part too. This is information that we get from Jennifer Breheny Wallace, who wrote the book Never Enough and really focuses on the idea of mattering as being important to well-being. So this is students knowing that they are more than their grades, right? They might do really well in their grades. That's just one piece of information that doesn't define them. Same as if they mess up on something, right? If it doesn't go how they'd like, they get a grade lower than they expected, it doesn't change our opinion of them. It's just kind of one data point. So one way to do this is making sure that we're talking about other things too, right? That every day the first thing they hear when they get home from school isn't, how did that test go? Or did you turn in the missing assignment? But just like, how was your day? What made you laugh today? How are things with your friends? And kind of going beyond just those academic pieces. So I know those are sometimes the things on their mind of, hey, we need to get these things done. I'm looking for this data. But the things we talk about do send messages to our students about what our values are. So in encouraging overall well-being and managing academic stress, it's a little counterintuitive, but that might mean we need to talk about academics a bit less sometimes.
And finally, we encourage parents to have conversations about what the expectations are related to, academic performance, goals for your student. As we've talked about, prioritizing is really important, and kind of prioritizing balance as the expectation. So, yes, we want to put forth our best effort on our finals. We want to put in the work to study and prepare, but also we want to take care of ourselves as well. And that may mean taking breaks. It may mean, closing the book and moving on to something else for 15 minutes, rather than having an environment of, feeling like there's insurmountable pressure and things like that can really help them have a more positive mindset when they're going into those finals.
Yeah, I think too, I don't know what grade all of your kids are in, but for some of you, you might have freshmen or this is their first run through finals week. Others may have seniors where they're like, this is not my first rodeo here. But just using this as a data point for the future too. So, um, right, if this is kind of one of the busier times of year, keeping that in mind when you're making choices for the future about how much is reasonable to take on and thinking about these kind of crunch times when, oh, that sophomore year maybe I had a full load of 6 classes and I had my sport. I don't really know if I should be adding a bunch more to my plate for junior year and kind of holding that in your head because we don't have a time machine. We can't change the what we're at right now, but we can use it to inform the choices we make in the future. I also say to students, their grades are their grades. They can make of it what they can now. So not putting unrealistic expectations of what can happen between now and the end of the semester. No matter what's happening right now, we get a clean start in January. Our grades are semesters, so they all kind of reset. So setting a realistic goal for themselves now, not putting themselves through the ringer these last few weeks for something that may or may not happen, just trying their best, letting that be okay, and then setting some new intentions in January and using this as a learning experience for whatever it was, the things that they did well, the things that they might have done a little differently. And that would be a very individual conversation based on your student and how they feel this semester went. We've talked a bunch already. If anyone has any questions, this is a casual event, so feel free to jump in and interject.
I think this was very helpful. I know there's only a few of us,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you sort of hosting these sessions regularly. It's good to be able to connect with the team. My son is a freshman, so all of this is very new, and it's always informative. Um, uh, yeah, I look forward to him coming up with the plans as to how he's planning on organizing himself for the finals. I had a different question, so I'll wait towards the end, more towards the next semester, when um, can they choose new electives in the second semester, or because he never really got a B period, or, that's a different question, but
Yeah, we'll have a
yeah.
Q&A at the end and we're happy to field more general questions there. But I appreciate your kind words also.
So, we've talked a little bit about kind of specifically what you can be doing to support your student to prepare for finals week, and managing those expectations. But we also wanted to just include some general tips that we found are very helpful for supporting your students' well-being throughout the year. That can also help when finals week rolls around and we've got that extra pressure going on. So, one of the things that we know is important is being available to talk with our kids. And sometimes that's easier said than done. But one of the things that we found is it's really helpful when our student is sharing something important to them or sharing things that are going on in their lives that we make the space for them and listen and validate their feelings without trying to, jump in and try to solve all the problems ourselves. And I know as parents, that can be kind of our instinct. We don't want our students to struggle. We want to help them. We want to give lots of suggestions. And we want to kind of help them navigate those things. And sometimes the most effective thing we can do is just listen, hear what they have to say, and then encourage them to share their own thoughts about what they might do to manage the situation in front of them. That can be really powerful, and it can help them to feel like they can come to you for anything and feel less pressured to come up with, an answer or that they need to, maybe have solutions right away. So really making that space for them. And then connection we know is really important, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but just having those small opportunities for family connection. So maybe it's just going on a quick walk around the block after dinner. Maybe it's, schedules are busy, but we always have dinner together on Monday night. Maybe it's just leaving a positive, sticky note on their bathroom mirror one day, but just those little things that we can do to remind our kids, like, you're important, you're loved, we're together, we're a family. That really helps with general well-being. And then we also suggest to make a family social media plan. So as we talked about, social media is a large part of student life and can sometimes have some mental health impacts. And so something that can be helpful is talking together as a family about what the social media or the technology use kind of plan is in the household. So is there something where everybody is off their phone at 10 p.m. Or, we have certain time limits or we use certain media in a certain way throughout the day? Those can be really helpful. So that there's a link to the American Academy of Pediatrics suggestion for creating a social media plan. It's a great website, very comprehensive, and can be very helpful. So that's something that we encourage. And then just another powerful thing that we can do as parents and adults in our teens' lives is just modeling healthy habits. So how do we manage stress? Do we make sure we're prioritizing, regular meals, getting enough sleep? Again, easier said than done sometimes, but even just your teen seeing how you manage your stress can be a very helpful tool.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. All right. This is a little change of gears here, but in thinking about kind of triage through these next few weeks, one thing that we really focus on with your students is trying to use their study time as efficiently as possible, right? We don't want them to be spending many, many, many hours studying. So one of the ways to do that is to really get in there with some impactful study strategies. And that really means active study strategies versus passive. So passive is things like, looking over the notes, I think is something I hear all the time. And that actually can create a false sense of security because if you're looking at it, it tends to feel more familiar. You think you have it under control. And that can take a while to like reread all that and just keep doing that until you feel like you know it. So instead, really testing that, doing things like making flashcards, kind of an old school one. One of my favorites is like acting like the teacher. So that's drafting test questions. Hey, if I was the teacher, what test questions would I be asking? Do I know how to answer those? Maybe explaining the concept to a peer or their parent or the dog, right? The dog can't ask questions, but still better than nothing. So act like the teacher, put their teacher hat on, right? And that can do some deep learning there because they're thinking more critically about it. Creating concept maps, right? How do these different things relate to each other? That really cements understanding because they're drawing more connections. There's more parts of the brain that will be activated when they're trying to remember. Same goes for trying to access different modalities. So they've already written something, they've read something, so speaking it aloud, getting auditory input as well. And then finding a study buddy. I know this to be true for myself. It's not true for everyone, but if you're having to do this thing that maybe isn't super enjoyable, like studying, doing it next to someone that provides some social connection, so you're more happy to do it as well, but it also can be accountability, right? You see that person next to you working hard, so you're going to match that. I know some students even put on YouTube. There's like YouTubes of people studying, and if you have that playing in the background, some students really report that like, oh, I have to keep up with this person studying, so they can do it that way as well. So those are just some examples. There's many out there. We do have some linked on our counseling website as well. We have a chart on there that talks about like, oh, if you think you would do this or you need to get ready for this, here are the examples that specifically apply to it, which I think can be really helpful for students when they're trying to switch over from, oh yeah, I'm someone who looks over my notes and I want to be someone who studies more actively. All right. We were talking, Katie brought these up earlier. We have a few student support offerings next week. Students have until Sunday to sign up for offerings next week. There's a structured student support Monday, so no movement, but Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are all movement days. I'm running a prepping for finals session on Tuesday where we're talking about backwards planning, looking at active study strategies. I also touch a bit on AI and ethical use of that in how to study, right? How do we have Gemini help us to be the best versions of ourselves, student-wise, study-wise? So that's happening on Tuesday. Katie is running on Thursday the stress loss for tests about test anxiety. You would find those under our names. The students would sign themselves up. So they're welcome to do that. Our Wellness Center also has many, many student supports, and this isn't just finals week specific, to be clear. It's throughout the whole semester. Mondays they do mindfulness. Tuesdays it rotates between like kind of mindfulness intention setting or therapy dogs. So I know a lot of our students really enjoy that. Thursdays they do backpack tune-ups. And then Fridays is game day. So if your student needs to recharge their social batteries before heading into kind of a long weekend of study sessions, that's available as well. So those are happening all the time, just different ways to kind of access resources here on campus. Okay. Oh, and which brings us to the Q&A. So yeah, happy to field any questions related to this or just generally, we're here for you guys. Yeah, you can go ahead and either put it in the chat or unmute. I see a hand raised.
Yeah, hi. I think the chat has been turned off for this meeting, so you can really put your questions.
I think the Q&A might be working, but either way, you're welcome to unmute.
Yes, thank you. My question was, I don't know whether it is relevant to this current session or not, but I was wondering, for students who are in sophomore or for students who are in the junior year, what exactly is the programs that are really offered by the CHS at the CHS level or even at the SRV UST level, whether it is summer programs or whether it is internship programs or whether it is something different at the the federal level. It's really hard for me to search for any such information that are applicable. There are way too much of navigation that requires. You have multiple websites that are available out there, but there is no accurate information for you to follow or for you to pursue. I have been, facing this kind of a problem at least from past 2 years. Either I'm late in the game, whether it is for fall or spring or the summer programs. It becomes really hard even for the kids to follow up because they will be busy with the classes. They will not be able to meet with the counselors, or when they go in for the counselor is not there. Parents cannot walk in. There is no other support sessions. So it would be really helpful. Please put something out there for people who can refer to such programs that are available, especially these. The 4 years or at least the 3 years is extremely important for them.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I'm not entirely sure I'm understanding your question, but we do every year have grade level specific programming meetings for the following year to pick your courses and talk about things that students and families of that grade level need to know. And if you missed any in the past, they are all on our YouTube page. So that might be worth checking out. And then if your student is looking for kind of opportunities to get more involved, I always suggest starting with clubs. We have over 100 student clubs on campus, and that tailors it a little bit more to your students' particular interests. But if they have general questions, I would encourage them to come into the counseling office, come in to speak with the college and career advisor. If we're ever not here, we all have clipboards outside of our office that they could sign up on. So there are multiple ways to get some information like that.
I think they are already aware of the clubs, and if you're talking about the general academic courses per year, then pretty much like we are in line with that. But what I was meaning was outside of the academic work, if they want to pursue some internship or the youth leadership program or the youth legislative program or something robotics or something different outside of the academic, is there a
Are you talking
website
about outside of Cal High?
Yes, Cal High or in association with Cal High that you people offer. So where do we look for such programs, internships, if there are any opening for the internships? So where do we pursue that? Whom do we?
Yeah, I would encourage your student to come and talk to the college and career advisor in the counseling office.
Okay, so walk-ins are allowed. Can we just help the student along with the student? Can we just walk in on
Adults
any day?
No, adults can't be on campus. That's a safety concern. That's why adults need to have appointments, but your
Okay.
student is welcome to come.
Okay, they can walk in anytime.
Not during class. They need to be
Yeah,
in
of
class
course.
during class.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay. So then it is better that the student directly contacts the college and career with their specific questions
Yeah.
rather than we, doing the front running for them. So,
For sure. Yeah, that would be like a student-driven process.
okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
You'd mentioned earlier that you would be hosting sessions for the students, all the information that you shared, especially in the coming weeks. Is
Yeah.
that through individual classes? Because it's not possible for you to go to every single class. Or do you expect them to show up to a session?
Yeah, so that's why we do those student support sessions so they
Okay,
can
got
sign
it.
up for it during the responsive schedulers, and they all got emails kind of letting them know what's being offered.
Okay, I'll check.
Yeah, so that would be one thing I would say after finals week is over, encourage your student to do a big cleanup, whether that's digital cleanup, backpack cleanup. I know I've been in students' emails and it's like 5,000 messages. I'm like, I think we should just delete these all. You're not going to go through them. So let's clean slate. That way you don't miss out on important information. So I think that would be something that I know I'm certainly going to do over the break for myself as well.
Mhm.
To be clear, I do not have 5,000 emails, but
We all do actually. No one checks emails anymore. And then my last question was, the courses pretty much remain the same next semester, right? So for freshmen, the exception of I think ethnic studies will change to
yeah,
a
ethnic
different
studies and
course.
health are semesters,
Okay.
so whichever one they didn't do, they'll do the other one.
Okay. And then is the grade then per semester, or is that for the entire year? Like how does that
All
work
of
on
our
that?
classes, will get 1 grade a semester. So for all six, 7 classes they're in right now, 5 if
Mhm.
you're a junior or senior, they'll get 1 grade for first semester, and then for whatever classes they're in next semester, they'll get 1 grade there. So
Okay.
for English, that's a year long, they'll get 2 grades a year. For health and
Mhm.
ethnic studies, they'll get 1 grade per class because each class is 1 semester.
Different. Okay. Got it. Okay. And is there opportunity to sign up for B period in the next semester if you didn't get one this?
Not
No.
really, because all of our B periods are, well, really all of our classes, except for health and ethnic studies for freshmen and Gov and Econ for seniors, are year long. So it's not really possible to join anything at the semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
The B period
So-
offerings were very limited this year, especially with the budget cuts, because we don't get additional funding for students to have a 7th class. So it's been challenging. So yours was not alone, but I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just one question about how do they practice about this, like these finals? Like the teachers help them out with some practice tests, or is it completely depends on the teacher to teacher? And so the whole it's again my son is freshman, so it's
Yeah.
all new to us. And so the whole course, whatever they have learned until now, I know they have been doing the test of like every chapter, every like now
Mhm.
and then they have test going on. But so this finals is like whatever they have learned from August to until now.
Not
So that's the
always.
course. Not
Not
always. Okay.
always. Yeah, that's why I kind of started with trying to go back through my slides, but this first one about like what is on the final, what format is it? I really encourage people to start there because I think we as adults think like, oh, a final is going to be a test, it's going to be cumulative, and that's just really not the case. Many of our teachers do projects or essays, or some of them do have a cumulative final, but others it's just another chapter test. So I really, before I would go into the weeds too much with that, is have your student have information from their teacher about like what is the final. And then, yes, many of our teachers, if they are giving a test, will give some sort of study guide. If not, I always encourage asking them directly, like, hey, what do you recommend best? I've been hard pressed to find many teachers who are not giving study guides of some sort, but at the worst case scenario, it's like, hey, go back to what you studied for the chapter test and put that together. I always encourage students, even if a note card or a cheat sheet isn't allowed for a test, to still create one as a practice method. Obviously, don't use that if you're not allowed to, but I think the process of creating that and putting that all together and really thinking through what's the critical information that I've learned is a really useful study method. So that's to say, like, no, a cumulative final is definitely not the default.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so basically, it all depends on the teacher, and the student should contact the individual teachers about what is exactly. And I'm sure teachers will tell them by
I was gonna
themselves
say,
as well.
I think, yeah, when I've kind of tried to have these conversations before Thanksgiving, they haven't quite started yet, but now that we're back in December, all the teachers, like now all the students are able to more definitively say, oh, I think it's this, but I'm like, well, double check on that. But there have been conversations about what's going to be expected. So,
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you.
I would actually say a cumulative final is probably less common than other methods.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so much for taking time out of your morning to come hang out with us. I know we've enjoyed getting to spend some time with you and do these coffee with the counselors. We're always, if you have ideas that you think would be a good session that parents would be interested in, right? We're doing these to connect with you all. Shoot me an email. I'm the one who puts these on the calendar for the most part. So my email is kfalcone, like my last name. Always open to new suggestions, but we will be doing course selection specific ones. We know that's a heavy hitter. So we do those as evening events so more parents can join. So I think that's all for me. Anything else, Katie?
No, just it was a pleasure to have some time with you this morning, and hopefully you found this helpful. And good luck to your student in the next couple of weeks. We're available for them.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Have a
so
great
much.
day.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
season's greetings. Happy holidays ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
season's
You too.
greetings
Thank
to you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for
You're
sharing.
yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Enjoy. Bye.
Bye.